United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was charged with 5 crimes, including murder in New York late Monday night. Mangione's arrest ended a 5-day manhunt that spanned several states as the industry continues to grapple with the fallout of the shock of the killing. Now, the executive's death also brought to surface long-lingering frustration within the U.S. healthcare system. Joining us now for more on this is senior health reporter Anjali Khemlani. And Anjali, I know you've been following the story very, very closely. So now they have the suspect here. Just talk to us just about the industry's reaction to this and the headwinds that continues to face the industry in light of these events.
Yeah, I think if you take a look at the stocks, first indicator, of course, for our audience, we see that the stocks remain under pressure for all of health insurers. The biggest ones are still sort of flat. They did bump up a little bit on the news of Mangione's arrest yesterday and still continue to kind of wait and see what the rest of the fallout is. I think if you look at what the maybe commentary from the industry is, the silence kind of is deafening. I think aside from sympathy notes and changing, the taking down profiles and headshots of executives, we haven't seen any of the large insurers really comment on what could be the motive. And that's because we're in a position where there's more questions than answers. We still don't know the motive of the killer, and we are still waiting on more answers on why he specifically targeted United Healthcare and Brian Thompson specifically. But we do know that some longtime experts in the industry, like Oscar Health's Mark Bartolini, who is also the former Aetna head, did say that the shooting was, quote, a wake-up call for the industry. We also know that he said that while the act in and of itself is unconscionable, the behavior of the American public and reaction to it is understandable, given how frustrated people are at the state of the healthcare system in the United States. And it's important to note that this is sort of the question that may be, and the conversation that may be happening in boardrooms right now. It may just still be early days, going back to the more questions and answers. Is the industry going to focus on claim denial, which has been a topic of conversation following the shooting? Or will it continue to defend the system? Because the industry right now is pretty convinced that claim denials are low and that they are finding fraud, waste, and abuse in the system, whereas we know the public reaction has been largely different from that. And so those are the questions the industry is grappling with. It seems like in addition to that, the pylon of a new administration coming in and policies that could affect what's happening, all of that is in the mix, actually, as part of this conversation to see where the industry goes and what kind of decisions come from it, if anything changes at all. It's more of a historical, hindsight 2020. Is this going to be a pivotal moment for the industry, or is it going to continue status quo?
What is the likelihood of that we see such a flashpoint like this and the public outcry there afterwards as well, or at least the public discourse elucidate how so many consumers are also thinking about these companies too and publicly discussing them now too? Does that initiate any major change from what we can see thus far?
It certainly initiates conversation. Yeah. The conversations are happening. Whether or not they are going to simply come out and say, listen, the system is just too nuanced, here's a way to understand it better, here's why you think or feel that you're not getting the care you need, or will they try to work on a system? Mark Berlini also told me yesterday that no one really has the technology to adequately process claims the way that needs to happen in order for it to be less of an issue and less of a burden. So there are smaller players, right? Oscar Health is one of them. You've got the Scans of the world. There are smaller players in the industry that are doing things differently, but because they don't have the market share, we may not be seeing the impact of that just yet. And so all of that, along with what the trade groups are currently discussing and talking about, is part of what I'm going to be watching to see whether or not this turns into a flashpoint, or does it just become a moment in history. And